So, UFC 294 Makhachev vs Volkanovski takes place this weekend. I've already done my full card predictions and I've already done a detailed prediction and breakdown of the main event. But now we're going to be talking about the co-main event of Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman in heavy detail, breaking it down, going over who I think is going to win, each fighter's path to victory, and all of that. And then I'll talk about as well kind of what it means for the winner, and just all the details that really surround this fight. So, starting off with just talking about the fight itself and the short notice aspect of it. Obviously, Kamaru Usman stepping in here, 10 days notice, I believe it is. Paulo Costa was the opponent. Khamzat Chimaev was preparing for Paulo Costa. Very different style. Costa's like a big, not that technical, decent striker, decent like jiu-jitsu grappling, doesn't offensively wrestle a lot. That was the style which Khamzat Chimaev was dealing with. Now he's got Kamaru Usman, who is a lot smaller than Costa, but way more technical. Better striker, I think he's more powerful, and actually offensively wrestles, but not the same jiu-jitsu that Costa has, in my opinion. So I don't expect to see Kamaru Usman present much of a jiu-jitsu threat. Like I don't see him doing well in the defensive grappling once he's already down. If Khamzat Chimaev gets Kamaru Usman down in this fight, let's talk about Khamzat Chimaev sort of like before this fight. How's he looked in his recent fights? Apart from the Gilbert Burns fight, he has basically just ran through everyone. He has just smoked everyone. He steamrolls them. He gets to that body lock, or just gets that double leg and just takes people down and just TKOs them or submits them in the first or second round. And he did that with pretty much everyone, most recently Kevin Holland. The one guy who he didn't do that with, though, was Gilbert Burns. So if you look at that Gilbert Burns fight, he came out, he looked good in the first round. Obviously, he was getting touched up a bit, but that's to be expected. There's no way you're going to go out there and not get hit by Gilbert Burns in a stand-up fight. That's just not going to happen. That would be, like, unrealistic to assume. But what he did, when he came out there, he looked pretty solid. He was fighting behind straight punches. He had a pretty good reach advantage. And he was doing well in that fight. He dropped Gilbert Burns with a southpaw jab, put him down, and then was hammer fisting him a lot. But in that, even early, he still went for that signature takedown. He went for that takedown. He got Burns down very briefly, kind of got to his legs. But Burns did a pretty good job of defending the takedown initially. Kind of dragged him across the octagon a little bit. Ended up on top. Burns got like butterfly guard, and then ended up making his way back to the feet. Threatened with like a sort of triangle or armbar. And even post-fight, Khamzat said like, he felt like resistance of Burns on the ground, and then he kind of got annoyed and just wanted to knock him out on the feet. So that was kind of like he didn't fight smart in that fight, Khamzat. I think a lot of people have this this weird idea or misinformed idea that Khamzat's got like really bad fight IQ. Like, he fought reckless in the Burns fight. He got reckless. I do think he probably does have that tendency in him to get reckless and try and brawl a bit too much on the feet. But for the most part, he knows what he wants to do. Like, against Holland, he went to it straight away. It's not like he tried to strike with Holland or something and knock him out on the feet. Like, he shoots straight away. He knows where his abilities lie. He knows what his strength is. It's in the grappling. It's in that really crushing wrestling pressure that he has. But obviously, he does have power on the feet. The time we did see Khamzat at middleweight, the most notable opponent that he's fought at middleweight is obviously, well, he fought Kevin Holland at like 179, like a catch weight. But GM3, Gerald Meerschaert, was the one time we've actually seen Khamzat Chimaev fight in the middleweight division, and he slept him and stiffed him in the first round. So I definitely do believe Khamzat's power is well improved, and he's a lot better off with the power and the just striking, I think, on the feet. I think his chin's probably even better at 185 too. And he showed a granite chin against Gilbert Burns. So one thing I don't see is Kamaru Usman knocking Khamzat Chimaev out. That's not something I see happening. I think Khamzat's not going to let that happen. I think his chin's going to be too good, and I don't think Usman's power is going to translate ridiculously to middleweight. But obviously, GM3 fight, not a lot to talk about. He came out there, stiffed him. Like Li Jingliang, not really a relevant fight to talk about. You're kind of looking at the Gilbert Burns fight, really, in terms of a quality level of opposition. Gilbert Burns is the only top-level guy that Khamzat's actually fought. And that fight was obviously really tough. In the second round, he overextended on a lot of shots. He swung. He exchanged in the pocket with Gilbert Burns, who hits pretty well off the back foot, and he's got power in those tight hooks to when he does exchange in the pocket. But Gilbert Burns, even striking-wise, is a very, not only grappling-wise, but Gilbert Burns striking-wise is a very different style to Kamaru Usman. Like, Usman's striking a lot of straight punches, like quick, snappy jabs, powerful straight punches, not a lot of kicks, not a lot of, like, body kicks. But Gilbert Burns, like, he throws a good kick, he throws a lot more hooks than Kamaru Usman. I think probably pound for pound, I think Burns probably does hit a little bit harder. But like, Usman's one big KO was the Masvidal one, but like, that was just a perfect right hand, and he did KO or TKO Gilbert Burns with the jabs. But that Burns' chin hasn't shown to be the best in recent years, and he has also shown a weakness to getting dropped by like southpaw jabs. So Khamzat, obviously, in that Gilbert Burns fight, first and third round, he looked a lot better. In the third round, he went back to being not as reckless. He fought behind the straight punches a bit more, and he pressured Gilbert Burns and really got to him. You saw that moment in the third round where Burns was sort of covered up, and Khamzat was just unloading punches on him, and you're like, oh, Burns is getting tired. He was gassing out. So he definitely has the pressure. That is his big strength here, in my opinion. Kamaru Usman's last two fights obviously haven't been amazing. He dominated Leon Edwards early in their fight, from the second to the fourth round, second, third, and fourth round. He was dominating Leon Edwards without a doubt. But then he got head kick KO'd, and that was a fight where I did predict him to win, obviously, but I thought he was slightly going downhill. And even in that fight, I noticed that, like, he won that fight because of the cardio output, the cardio aspect, obviously being at Salt Lake City, and he was able to push that pace, which he does on a lot of people. And he pushed it against Leon very effectively. But I also don't believe Leon looked good in that fight. I think Leon had, like, a lot of nerves. He wasn't, like, doing as well as he normally does. Like, that's not the Leon that we saw show up in that trilogy fight, which is obviously Usman's most recent performance. And in that fight, I really didn't like how he looked on the feet. Obviously, takedown-wise, he was able to take down Leon Edwards, but that's completely irrelevant to this fight. He's not going to take down Khamzat, in my opinion. But let's talk about the striking in the Leon Edwards fight. He got kicked up a lot, and he got kind of picked apart with the kicks and the knees of Leon Edwards. He got battered with low kicks, and especially with those knees that he's got. His knees are kind of, they're deteriorating by the day. Khamzat's got some pretty powerful low kicks. Definitely not as accurate or as, like, well-timed or well-placed as Leon Edwards, but he's got some really heavy leg kicks. And up at middleweight, I definitely think Khamzat can land those leg kicks to great effect, and put some real power into them, and just really early on just get Usman a bit uncomfortable on the feet and get him, a bit tentative, a little bit not moving as well as he could. Usman's not much of a mover, though, but you know what I mean. Like, just really attack the legs first, attack the body with a few of those kicks, and just create your distance. Figure out the range. Khamzat, I think Usman's actually got a reach advantage here. I think it's like a 1-inch reach advantage, but he's used to fighting people with way less reach advantage, or way more. He's normally got a way bigger reach advantage. Like, when he fought Colby, he fought, Leon probably has a reach, but Leon was able to give him problems. Like, when he fought Colby, smaller reach. Gilbert Burns doesn't have the massive reach. Masvidal's not huge reach. Like, I think Khamzat's going to be the longest reach I think he's fought, I believe. And I think that's going to cause him a little bit of problems, especially when he likes to really be stinging you at the end of his jabs, and likes to hold you at range with that kind of piston of a jab that he throws out there, and throw those powerful straight punches. But with Khamzat Chimaev, I think he throws just as good. Like, I don't think he's as polished with them, but he's got power in his hands. We've seen that. I think up at middleweight, that's going to be even more pronounced as well. Power in the hands, and also really good straights. Like, against Burns, he had a lot of success with the straight punches. He knocked out GM3 with sort of like a hook straight, like hook right cross sort of punch. Like, he's got a lot of power on the front foot, and Khamzat Chimaev's pressure is something that I definitely I'm looking to win this fight. It's going to be an advantage for him. Usman, he doesn't strike all that well on the back foot. Like when Leon was kind of pushing him back a little bit, or even when Colby was putting the pressure on him, Colby was going jab for jab with him, and they had those moments where they were just exchanging straight punches, just back and forth on each other's face. Pause, sounds weird. But they had those, like, Colby was able to get in the pocket and just exchange with Usman with straight punches, and he beat him to a lot of them as well. I don't think Usman's going to be as quick as he normally is. I think he's going to be slowed down. We see guys at middleweight, typically, they don't look as good upper weight class. That's just something that happens. You're not as quick. You're probably more powerful, and you probably have a little bit better cardio, but sometimes not even. Like, your movement's not as good also, and I just genuinely think at middleweight, people just aren't as good. It's like being a middleweight just makes you bad. So, I don't know. Something about it, I just think that Usman's not going to look as good as he is. I think even though he didn't look all that in his last fight on the feet, in my opinion, I think he's going to look like an even worse version of that. Look, I do think we're going to see Usman with power. I think he's going to probably hurt Khamzat Chimaev with a couple shots. We're going to be like, oh, this is interesting. And I think he's going to be pretty strong as well. I do think he's going to stuff a few of the takedowns of Khamzat Chimaev. But overall, the move up, I don't like it for him on the feet. He's used to fighting guys smaller / his size. He's like the perfect size for welterweight. He was able to just get away with, like his size, he was able to bully people on the feet, and he had that physical pressure advantage, and he was the one pushing guys forward. Khamzat Chimaev doesn't move backwards. He doesn't often get pressured back. I do believe that Gilbert Burns pressured him back a little bit, but for the most part, he was pushing the pace. He was on the front foot in that fight. So I don't see Usman pushing Khamzat forward, and I think that's where Usman has his success, when he's moving forward, throwing out those powerful punches, pressuring guys back, shooting takedowns, mixing it up, and just kind of overwhelming guys. I don't see him overwhelming Khamzat, especially with the grappling. And when Usman can't get his wrestling exchanges going, he's limited to not being an amazing striker. Look, technically wise, Usman's jab is great. He's got a solid cross, but he doesn't throw a lot of kicks. He doesn't throw hooks or uppercuts or anything. Doesn't mix in elbows, knees. He throws some knees in the clinch, throws some foot stomps. But apart from that, you're not worried about calf kicks or leg kicks with Usman. You're not worried about him coming up high with a head kick, like Leon Edwards did to him. So I think his game on the feet is very limited. But the reason why he's had so much success with it is because he mixes in the takedowns and he just overwhelms guys with pressure. On the feet against Colby, he didn't. He had some success when he was pressuring him forward, and when in the second round, in that second fight, when he was dropping him in that fight. But a lot of the time they were reduced, and even later on, when he wasn't taking Colby down, obviously he didn't shoot much, but when he's not overly pressuring him forward and Colby's just sitting there exchanging with him, when you just fire back against Usman, he has a bit of trouble. So, or when you're beating him to the punch, which Leon Edwards did, beating him to the kick and the punch when he was putting his shots out there first, and he's the one that isn't okay, you come to me, I'm going to counterfight. Edwards is a counterfighter for the most part, but he was really offensive in that trilogy fight with the body kicks and with the low kicks. And he obviously had the threat of the head kick to kind of keep Usman at bay a little bit. But even Gilbert Burns, when you just sit back and when you just exchange with Usman and in prolonged exchanges, you do find openings. Gilbert Burns really early dropped him with a big shot. I can see Khamzat doing a similar thing, So we've covered the striking pretty extensively. Look, if I'm going to go with someone to have an advantage on the striking, stylistically, I like this fight for Khamzat Chimaev when I'm talking about the striking. When I'm saying who's going to do better in the exchanges, I do believe Usman probably is a bit more technical, but I see Khamzat doing to Usman what Usman does to a lot of people, which is just abusing the pressure and the strength and the physical dominance aspect that Usman normally has over his opponents, just walking them forward and just throwing shots and just kind of crowding them. I think Khamzat's really going to bother Usman with the pressure and the pace that he's going to put on, and I can see him landing some big shots upper middleweight, even more power. I can see him cracking Usman. I don't see him flatlining him with a punch, but I think he's going to really mess him up with the leg kicks. throw a few body kicks in there, and then just pressure him back. And I think as he's pressuring him back, he's going to land a sort of shot like he did against GM3 and maybe put Usman down, rock him a little bit, wobble him. But then he's going to follow him to the ground. So let's talk about the grappling exchanges in this fight. Look, I do believe 100% if this fight is firmly on the ground, like once it's there, Khamzat Chimaev wins. Unless somehow Usman takes Khamzat down, maybe that's a bit different. I would back Khamzat to get back up in that scenario. But if it's on the ground, if Khamzat gets a takedown or if Khamzat drops Usman, I think this is over. I think you're going to see an Oliveira Makhachev type situation where when the guy can actually drop the opponent once they've got to that position that they need to be in, then that's where they can really work that tank. So I think if Khamzat drops Usman, I think the fight's over. I think he's going to follow him, unless it's like drops him to a knee and he gets straight back up. But if he drops Usman and Usman ends up on his back and has to figure out a way to work back up, we saw in that Leon Edwards fight, when he got inside tripped, that he really did struggle to get back up. Like, he didn't get up after when Leon took him down. He got back up when Colby took him down briefly, but he kind of used defense to pull himself up. But when he got held down for a long period of time, his jiu-jitsu is severely lacking, in my opinion. It's the same thing we see with Justin Gaethje. It's that Trevor Whitman approach. He turns wrestlers or strikers, like he rounds out their striking game. He gives them clean boxing, but they're just not, they don't use jiu-jitsu over there with Trevor Whitman. So Usman off his back is not going to cause Khamzat problems. Like Gilbert Burns, I think the reason why Khamzat really didn't engage in a lot of the grappling exchanges there is because he felt that guard game of Gilbert Burns. He felt the submission attempts, and he realized that Burns was able to get back up a lot easier, so he probably didn't want to exert a whole lot of energy when he's like, this guy's just going to get back up and I'm wasting time not scoring because he's not landing on the feet. But Usman does not submit people off his back. That just doesn't happen. Not pretty often because he never ends up on his back. But I do see that if anyone's going to put Usman on his back for a long period of time, whether it be with a punch and then follows him down, or if he just gets a clean double leg or a body lock trip, which I think are going to be big for Khamzat in this fight, I think Usman's going to be in a lot of trouble. I think Khamzat's going to kind of just surgically maneuver his way to a better position. And especially Leon Edwards had his back. That's rough. Like, Leon Edwards took him down, got that inside trip, ended up in mount, and then ended up taking his back. That's really worrying. Khamzat Chimaev, Leon Edwards doesn't often go for trips and stuff. Khamzat Chimaev, that's one of his main things. Trips in the clinch, that's that Dagestani sort of Chechen wrestling style. A lot of body lock trips, a lot of throws from the clinch, which I see Khamzat completing successfully here. So if he can take Usman down and put him firmly on his back, not like he gets him down to a knee or something, not like he gets like a half takedown. If he gets Usman firmly on his back, ends up in like half guard, I think he can pass the side control really easily. He showed against Kevin Holland, his like scrambling attempts rarely work on him. He just holds on to. It was so cool to watch with Kevin Holland how he took him down. Holland scrambled and stuff, and he didn't hold on to that body lock for dear life, because when you hold on for the body lock, that's when those scrambles work, because that's when they then make their way up to the feet. Because you're holding on and they maneuver their way around to the back or a different position and then they stand up. But what he did against Holland was he kind of just followed him. He didn't hold the grip as tight. He let Holland flow, almost like a flow roll in jiu-jitsu. He let him flow and then just followed him. And even if he did get back up to the feet, he followed him to the point where he then still had that body lock. So it's not like he completely let go of it and let Holland move and get back up. It's like he let him roll, and then he just followed him with the roll and then got back to that body lock where he can then just take you down. When he ended up on top of Holland, he pretty much like didn't have a whole lot of resistance. He worked his way around the guard, and Holland's got a pretty solid guard. Like, Holland's got a better defensive jiu-jitsu than Kamaru Usman. I can say that pretty confidently. But he was able to maneuver his way around Holland and take his back and then submit him with a dash choke, which is Holland's kind of thing that he gets on people in the grappling. So I see Khamzat, if he gets him down, and I think he can, I'll talk about that in a second, but once it's on the ground, the pure jiu-jitsu aspect, Khamzat smokes him in my opinion. He works his way to the back, he works his way to a dominant position, gets side control, and just starts throwing ground and pound. Even just from guard, I don't think he's going to have the respect for Usman's submission abilities off his back, and I think it's just going to unload ground and pound. He's not going to worry about getting triangled or armbarred like he was against Burns. And Usman just doesn't throw strikes off his back. against Leon. Obviously didn't have a lot of chance to, but Burns throws strikes off his back. Even when he was dropped, Burns was throwing hammer fists and stuff off his back. Just things to deter Khamzat from staying on top of him for a long period of time. Usman's not going to have that. So jiu-jitsu, like grappling on the ground wise, I do really back Khamzat, and I think he's going to have a really good time here with the grappling in this fight. Let's talk about just the pure wrestling and how the fight's going to end up getting to the mat if it's not from a knockdown. I do not see Usman taking down Khamzat at all. Khamzat up at middleweight, going to be even stronger, even bigger. I don't think Usman wasn't getting takedowns at will on Leon Edwards. Khamzat Chimaev, way better defensive wrestling than Edwards. All these guys talk about the Dagestani, like, the offensive wrestling style. They're like, oh, they take guys down. These guys do not get taken down. Like, Ikram Aliskov stuffed all of Khamzat's takedowns when they fought on the regional scene. These Dagestani Sambo style, it's not made for getting taken down. You don't get taken down. So, I do believe that Khamzat is not going to get taken down by Usman. I know Burns is not the same offensive wrestler as Kamaru Usman, but he's still pretty strong and he does take guys down. Like, Gilbert Burns could not even move the leg. He was on a single leg. He didn't even move the leg of Khamzat Chimaev. And he had clean entries too. And Khamzat he's got such strong hips. He just pushes him off, gets the whiz up. That's what these guys use. They use the whizzes really well. And they just stop any takedown attempt. So Usman not going to take down Khamzat. I think that's a very confident pick or a confident bet to make. No takedowns for Kamaru Usman in this fight. But Khamzat, I think he can take down Usman, and I think he can do it a multitude of multiple different ways. I think he can time shots. I do think he could probably secure a blast double like he does against a lot of people. Like, he took down Holland so quickly in their fight. So I can definitely see him doing a similar thing to Kamaru. He just goes straight away, bam, just shoots. Kamaru might be expecting it, so there's a chance he doesn't just get done immediately by that takedown. But I think most of his takedowns and where he's going to have the success in the grappling exchanges is going to be in the clinch. I believe Khamzat Chimaev is going to treat Kamaru Usman how Kamaru Usman treated Tyron Woodley in the grappling exchange. I think he's going to get in. He's going to be so much stronger than him in the clinch, and I think Usman's just not going to know what to do with it. He's going to be confused about how much stronger and how much more physically dominant Khamzat is, and it's going to be the same thing when Woodley just got dominated by Usman and just had no answers for him in the grappling. He's going to pressure him up against the cage. He's going to look for body locks. He can get that body lock inside or outside trip. He can go for that. He's got a number of different throws, obviously. We don't see a lot of his throws in the clinch. Like, often he just blasts takedowns, guys. But if he gets that body lock, I think he's going to work his way around to the back of Kamaru Usman while they're in the clinch. And I think if he gets the back of Usman standing, he's going to have a field day and he's just going to get him down. And he's going to just hang on him. And I think even though Usman's got the better cardio, he's not used to being worn on in the octagon. He's not used to being grappled for prolonged periods of time. Even Colby was able to... I know that wasn't much of a grappling fight, but it's not like Usman's got the best cardio in the world. It's not at altitude. It's a 3-rounder. I don't see this being a war like the Gilbert Burns fight, so I do believe 100% that Khamzat Chimaev can hold up a pace. I think he's been working for ages. He's been building his way up to middleweight. I don't think he's going to be ready for it, and I don't think Kamaru is. I think Kamaru is going to be a welterweight that isn't cutting as much weight, and I think Khamzat's going to be a guy that would not even come close to it. Like, if you told Khamzat cut as much weight as you can, I don't think Khamzat's even making like 178 or something. Like, I think Khamzat is truly at that point where there's no chance he's fighting at welterweight ever again. Not even close. I don't think he would even make like 180, to be honest. I think he was a big welterweight. And I think he's just bulked up so much. He looks massive in the photos that we've seen. So, yeah, physically wise, I think he's going to dominate Kamaru Usman. And I think he's going to use those body locks to great effect, take him down, get the back of Usman. That's the way I see him winning in the grappling. But my final prediction, guys, obviously you should have picked it up by now how I'm talking. I'm picking Khamzat Chimaev. I've been going back and forth on the method of victory because as much as I think it would be a very likely outcome for him to just take Usman down and sub him, something just tells me he cracks him with a big shot on the feet. And if he does drop Kamaru Usman, I just see him wanting to put that TKO finish. I just see him going for that ground and pound and putting a statement on it. So And I think he's going to do it early. I think he's going to really get this done early, make a statement, and then fight for a title shot. So I'm picking Khamzat Chimaev. I'm going to go with a first round TKO due to ground and pound. That's my official call. Let me know who you guys are picking in the comments. Like, subscribe, follow my Instagram, Left Lane MMA, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.